It's so great to see everybody. And I know when we were coming up with a topic, we're like, it's April and summer's always a good topic for us to talk about. And I thought, summer, I can't believe it's already summer conversations. But as moms, summer is, typically means a lot of different things to us. School schedules, longer days, rhythms and routines shift for sure. And sometimes it can be something we anticipate and look forward to, and sometimes it can be, wow, it's a lot of together time, a lot of, a lack of structure and routine, and sometimes we're crawling through to the end. So we just thought we'd talk about it. And, how do we have fun? How do we make memories and make summer purposeful? I'm just going to open up with Ecclesiastes 3:1, and it says, "To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven." And I think it's just such a reminder that life moves in God ordained rhythms and that nothing is wasted or random. So here we have another summer ahead of us. How do we keep it from being just another summer, maybe another summer that we just get through, or another summer of just fun? But how do we make it purposeful and, as God intended it? And so without putting a lot of pressure, but just talking through it. So before we get in, we have all kinds of things to share, but I thought we would share, like when you hear summer, like what comes to mind, like the dread or the excitement, or what emotion comes to mind when you think about summer?
I'll go. I definitely feel some pressure to make things really fun, and like manage their expectations because they remember the highlights of the previous summer, like the beach vacation or going to the fair, and they don't remember like the ordinary days of like, yes, you still have to make your bed and help, whatever, all that stuff. So just a little bit of pressure, but like excited too, and just I feel
Mhm.
like the biggest challenge every summer is how do I manage their expectations from the right and in the beginning.
That is so well said.
Hmm. Yeah, very good. It's so true that they remember the highlights. I never
Yeah.
thought about that. We love all of our notes here. That was not one thing I wrote down, but it's so true. And then they have these high expectations and trying to live up to what they remember last summer. You're just hoping to live up to last summer reality, not the summer that they created.
It's so funny that you say that. I remember when we would do something fun at the very beginning of the summer and it was forgotten by the end. And but it's to that same point. So it's real. It's very real. You're not alone in that. Does anybody else have anything they want to share?
This is Iris. I think as a homeschool mom, I'm not, you know, I wouldn't say I feel like we're very normal, but we're not, with public school families, I teach all year long. And so I look forward to the summer because I feel like I'm a better mom in the summer and I have time for my littles and it's just a slower pace. I love when all the activities are done and we can just be like, we can just cuddle or we can read a book together. I can like do things I couldn't do all year long. So for me, I look forward to it. I always thought, how do public school teachers want to get out before I do? When I was public school as a kid, I couldn't understand how the teachers want to get out sooner. And now being one, I'm like, it is so true. And so I just love it. But there's just definitely, I mean, I have four boys, so it's like keeping them active, but active, like not in a destructive way or, getting their brother upset at them. So it is managing definitely expectations. It changes that for sure. But I guess I'm just going to jump in. I'm trying something new this year. I feel like I'm trying something new every summer. I'm trying something called, we're doing a summer focus. And every week we have one fun thing and one work thing. Like we just finished school. So this week, their job is to clean up their desk and reorganize it and clean out and throw junk away and get it ready for next year. And then their fun thing is they have to play chess together. And my two oldest are not getting along super well. So they have to play chess at least one game together this week. And so every week it will change in different things. So that way they can keep themselves motivated. But I'm working with a 12 and 10-year-old on find some goals this summer. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Because they're old enough they can do that. And so I think also when they get older, putting that on them, I shouldn't have to make those goals anymore. But keeping them busy enough, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, I'm sorry,
No,
keeping
it's
them busy
great.
enough that
Did you
they
read my notes?
no, but it's weird because we went to the pediatrician this morning, Julie, and I came home and we had something like a caution from the pediatrician today, and I was singing that song to every season, turn, turn. So I'm tracking with you too. So I don't know. So
So
I
good.
just try to give it some thought, like a month or so before we get into it too. So I'm not scrambling last minute, like what are we gonna do with our summer, and praying about it as well, so that I feel prepared when the summer comes, and try not to get too lazy as well. So there's my little
I love that. I
So
love
good.
that.
There were
stuff.
so many nuggets in there. Yes.
You have such good ideas. Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you.
I have such a whirlwind of emotions with summer. On one hand, I'm like excited for less busy school. Like, so we homeschool as well. So like not to have to be a teacher for a while and to get to declutter some. But on the other hand, I'm kind of nervous about what do we what do we do? You know, like how do like just like what everyone's saying, how do I keep them busy enough that they're having fun but not so busy? You want to say hi? Yeah. And then uh yeah, but I'm trying to set really simple expectations. So, like this summer our goal is to make a homemade popsicle. If we could do that, that would feel successful. Maybe camp one time.
It's good.
And then I'm somewhat hoping that the kids get bored and have to figure out what that looks like and what to do when you're bored. So,
So good. Yes. Boredom is not a bad thing. We'll talk about that.
I'll take a turn. I have all sorts of emotions when it comes to summer. My husband and I are both public educators, so that puts us both home at the same time together, and everyone is like in each other's faces. So we've had a lot of different summers over the years and trying to learn how to manage all of our expectations, because we all have different ones, and our kids are 14 and 11 this year, and they're getting to the point where they have very specific expectations of what they want out of it, and then I want to have a very intentional, so I'll have all these things that they weren't thinking that, and then my husband just thinking something totally different, and it feels a little bit of little stressful as we enter, just trying to figure out where everyone's at, but also it's a slower pace. We usually are rushing around and managing our work and the kids' schooling, and then their sports and things like that. So it's really nice to just have that time where we can go at a much slower pace and travel, and but that also comes with different routines. Every week it's going to look a little different depending on where we're at, because we do a lot of traveling, which is brings me back to the stressful part for me. But anyway, there's a lot that comes with summer for us.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing
so
that.
true. That's good. You brought up a lot of things there that were good.
Yeah, I can go. So I, right now in our season of life, my husband is a stay-at-home dad, and then I am working full time. So our roles, different seasons, they flip-flop. But for me, it's like for summertime, my job doesn't change. My hours don't change. I'll try to use some PTO here and there, but I think for us, we've really been trying probably like the last year to really practice not rushing and just really trying to just slow down. So even just like picking up societal pressures of making sure, so we have one son, his name's Josiah, he's 6. And so just trying to even be like, God, do you want him in sports, or do you want him just to enjoy going in the woods with his dad? Do you want us to, how act like we have a niece they're around the same age, so they like to play together a lot, but it's like, how busy are we keeping ourselves, but then also like having him, do chores around the house. He's learning how to read and he's really loving it. So how do we make reading fun? Like, trying to do some structure, but then also letting him just explore and play. But then also like the last few summers, it's like, Lord, do you want him in sports yet? Do you want him or does he just need to just be a boy and go hit a tree? Like what is he what does he need to do? So we're kind of just, I feel like each summer, especially over the last few years, has just been kind of like putting our hands up and just asking the Lord like what he wants us to do. And sometimes it feels a little more clear than others. But I think even just having the conversation now, it's like, okay, we've got a lot of weddings that we're traveling to this summer. So it's like in the midst of traveling and doing like more structured things, how do we invite play? And then when I come home from work, how do I make the most and maximize my time with Josiah when I am home or on the weekends? On Saturdays we practice Sabbath, and we've been doing that like pretty I would say consistently for like the last year of just like Saturdays is our rest day. Josiah knows that it's a rest day. We really like we don't talk about work. We try not to go shopping. We really try to just like make it a day of rest and still have fun, like to go do life-giving things. But how can we incorporate that like throughout the summer? So not any real solid answers, but that's just kind of some thoughts that I had like while everyone else was talking.
When you say solid answers, I think that was very solid. Maybe not as many
Okay.
details of what day
Maybe
to
not as
day
many
looks like.
details.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
think you have a good vision. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of things you have thought through. I mean, not rushing, being very
Yeah.
thoughtful and purposeful about what activities you
Yeah.
think he's ready for. So
And
yeah,
what
Yeah.
stood out to me, Amanda, was that you go first to prayer, and every
Yeah.
summer you go to
Mhm.
Yeah.
prayer. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Amen.
you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's
Mhm.
like, what is the Lord? It's very easy for me to compare myself, but then sometimes it's like the Lord didn't ask us to go there though.
No.
And then I can just rest on, you told us to not go anywhere this summer,
Yeah, absolutely.
so thank you for
Absolutely.
saying, I'm glad you said that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
A lot of it, so much is expectations. We're going to dig into that a little bit more. But, Kathy, you definitely touched on that. You have expectations. Jeff has expectations. The kids do. And disappointment comes when you have an expectation that
Yeah.
isn't met. So, really important to have a family meeting and talk about expectations for the summer, but then back up even one. And Lord, what are your expectations for the summer? What do you want us to get out of this? Start there and asking him and then discussing it
Hmm.
as a family. And it's so easy to say, oh, yeah, yeah, we'll pray about it. But really, like purposefully getting together with your husband, getting together as a family, have your kids see, let it be an example for your kids. We go into things with purpose. We're not just throwing spaghetti against the wall this summer. We are going to ask the Lord what He wants us to do this summer. And it's another way to show our children, too, that God has purposes in everything. And it's showing, we can show His character in that, too. Because sometimes if kids don't love church, or if we have maybe unknowingly but mistakenly set up God to be a little more strict and stern, they may think, oh, but God doesn't want us to have fun. Let's not pray about summer. But you can show, no, Lord, show us how we can have fun this summer, as of how we can create memories, how we can learn more about you, how we can love people around us. And the kids see you praying those things, and then you can start to connect the dots as you do things. We prayed for fun, and look what the Lord provided. We prayed to be a blessing in our neighborhood, and look what need He revealed to us. We prayed for this, and you to grow in character, responsibility, and look, the neighbor has asked you to feed their dog for them while you're gone. Wow, what a responsibility. So even connecting the dots for our kids, sometimes it seems obvious for us, but not always to our kids. And so we can connect our prayer, the faithfulness of God, things that are desires of our heart. He answered that as ways that we can be purposeful in the summer and point them to Him.
While you're talking about us as the parents praying, because quite a few of you have kids that are old enough, even Claire with your even 6-year-old, even 3-year-old, but at least the 6 and 8-year-old. Because as you said, the expectations, let them know ahead of time. We're going to have a family meeting or whatever you call it, and say, and mom and dad are going to be praying for some direction. And we want you kids to be praying and asking the Lord what would He have for our family this summer. Um, And it might be a new experience for them, but something that you want to cultivate in them, seeking the Lord. And just saying when we have our meeting Friday after dinner or whatever it's going to be, we really want to hear what maybe God has said to you. And just even putting that you actually believe that they can hear from God is an exciting thing for a child. So just a thought to consider too, for your kids to be involved in it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I
Maybe
love
even
that. Thank you.
making your family meeting half of it prayer time,
Yeah.
you know. So, just play some worship music and we're going to pray and just kind of even
Hmm.
sit in silence and ask God. Um, I have a story. Can I share? Um, because it kind of reminds me of what we're talking about with expectations and navigating disappointment and then God having amazing plans far bigger than what we could imagine. So I remember a summer when we went through some pretty big financial hardship. And so we had 5 children at home, and it felt like every time we left the house was an opportunity to spend money. Like if you're going to go anywhere, there's admission costs, there's just anywhere, it felt like. And I just thought, gosh, okay, um, you know, definitely need to be very mindful of how we're spending our time. And I think that was a disappointment for me because I had some thoughts of how I wanted to, explore the world, teach the children and such. And I remember just having to surrender those to the Lord. And then I remember it being a summer of the kids were kind of like, what are we going to do? And so, really having to empower them to come up with some ideas, but not to be afraid of boredom. And I have to share, this is such an amazing thing because in that, I remember my daughter, who, goodness, I wish I could remember how old she was, definitely middle school, and or maybe in ninth grade. Anyway, she was like, had a younger sister. She's like, Catherine, go take a shower and I'm going to take pictures of you in the backyard. And so she would do like a photo shoot with Catherine when they were little. So she must have had a phone. So maybe ninth grade. No, it seems younger. Anyway, regardless. So she started taking pictures and just developed this love of photography. I knew nothing about cameras, knew nothing about photography. And then sure enough, a friend was shooting weddings and was like, you know what? Let me train Caroline. And so she was like 15 when she first shot her first wedding. And it all came out of boredom. And I just remember the Lord showing me, like, see, Julie, I have such bigger plans for you, for your kids. I want more for them than you can even imagine. Just trust me. And so in that, I felt like, gosh, God, you fill in our gaps. You have so much more for our children. And so I just wanted to share that because I think I remember wanting music lessons for our kids, and the Lord, I remember thinking, okay, if our kids were supposed to, I mean, every homeschooling family takes music lessons, right? I mean, let's be honest, we have time, they can practice. I mean, that's just what you do. And then all of a sudden, just financially, just feeling this halt. And I remember thinking, I don't think that's unreasonable, God. And I think he was like, if they were supposed to have music lessons, I would have provided for music lessons. And just having that shift of, gosh, wow, he knows best for our children and he knows more. And so we say praying. I feel like I wish I would have had somebody tell me this, and we did. We had Beth, I remember Beth Blunt saying he fills in our gaps and he provides in ways. But you don't have a place for that to land until you really start to experience that and see that. So have the eyes to see God moving in your family and seeing him do more than you could ever ask or imagine. And sometimes in our greatest disappointment, he's birthing something. And so he always is using the hard. And so even this summer, just release our expectations and pressures. And if he wants you to be doing something, it will come with ease and joy and goodness. And that's him. He's a God of peace. And so if we're having this anxiety or pressure, like, okay, Lord, I'm feeling this. What do you have to say about it? And he'll show you We just have to
Mhm.
be quiet enough to listen.
Yeah, I love that. And your disappointment came out of
Ah,
your expectations of what you thought, the resources you thought you needed to
right.
provide for your kids. I was just sharing the other day, I had been reading a week or two ago, the feeding of the 4,000.
Mm,
And the devotion that I had just talked about how, the disciples had a few fish. And I just picture these floppy fish that they're putting in Jesus. Jesus, like, what you got? They like flop these fish into Jesus' hands, like really meager. There's 4,000 people that need
mm,
feeding and they flop the whatever meager they have. But our meager in the hands of
mm,
Jesus could feed 4,000.
mm.
And so whatever meager that we have, just slap it in the hands of Jesus. I really do need to get just a floppy fish that
Yeah.
I can like slap on my hand and remember like what I can offer. It's meager, but the Lord can do
Yeah.
so much. And
Hmm.
I love what you said. And so just putting our expectations before the Lord. And I think when we think of the summer, maybe back up, I mean, take it to the Lord, but then think about the goals that you have for your children.
Mhm.
Jessica, I love you wrote they're ready to experience some hard work. That's a great thing. We want our kids to experience hard work and to learn the value of work.
Hmm.
If you've all taken Growing Kids or Tree of Life, where the Ezzos talk about the rock bucket, that their daughters $1 a bucket. I think there's even a story I remember Gary sharing, and maybe it's in the video series. I can't remember where I heard it, where they bought their first home, and you guys asked them
Oh,
what
yeah,
you
how
gave.
many trips to the rock
Yeah,
pile?
I don't know what it was. Let's say it was a hundred
Yeah,
thousand. 100,000 trips to the rock pile, Mom and Dad. I thought
yeah.
that was learning the value of hard work. So name some of those lessons that you want your kids to learn. They may not learn them all this summer, but hard work, creativity, that varies. If there's a character trait, you
Hmm.
really want them to learn. I love what Iris said. Her two oldest may not be getting along as well as she would desire. And so having them do some things together, playing a game. We've sometimes put our kids who need to learn to work together a little better on projects together, and they have to work to get a project done. Uh, Fun things for sure. So them growing their relationship with the Lord, but you can just kind of lay all these things down, and as you take it to the Lord, say, "This is my list, Lord. I really want your list, but what's your solution to this? What are creative ways that these can be met and still have fun?" And again, not stressing about it. Like just flopping, I got a summer, I only got so many hours in the day. I got a lot of kids, a lot of them are little. Here's my floppy fish. Multiply it, Lord, and show
Yeah.
me how you do
So
it.
good. So good. So we talked about starting our summer with prayer, laying our expectations before the Lord, even praying about each child, like, Lord, what do you have for them this summer? I do think a calendar is always good. Anchor the things that are on your calendar.
Yeah.
And then, where are what are some things that you want to plan out? And obviously getting conversation with them too. We had a big whiteboard in the summer, and I felt like that just we'd lived by a whiteboard, not just in the summer. It was just a good brain dump for me, and it
Communication,
helped
yeah.
me and communication for them. And I remember even having like a list of things like, if you're bored, these are some good ideas. And so then it's when they do have downtime, because it's new for them. I mean, if they've been in a rhythm and a routine in school, what are some ideas that they can go to that could be creative? And so helping brainstorm on the front end of summer, like when you have downtime, what could that look like for you? And so
If they're coming out of a highly structured, whether they're in school or
yeah.
homeschool, either one, but they may be, going to school a lot of hours a day, have after school activities, they come home, it's dinner, it's homework, like they haven't had a lot of free time. And so they haven't had to think through, what do I do with free time? And so and it's not a new skill. Like Kathy, I know your kids have done it and you other too, but it's like, oh, it's been a while. They're rusty at thinking, what do I do with free time? And for the first week, I remember giving my kids like the first week, I would tell them, well, let me back up. When the kids got to be a little bit older, grade school, something like that, I'd ask them, what's something really important to you that happens this summer? Because I wanted to hear from them. And for some of them, it was, I want to sleep in every day. I was like, okay, I get that they want to sleep in, but there's some compromise here. You're not sleeping till lunch every day. So let's talk about what that looks like. What is sleeping into you? How many days a week are we going to do that? But then giving them on the front end, maybe for the first week, maybe for the first few days, let them really decompress. They might realize after a little while, okay, that was nice, but if my whole summer is like that, it's not going to be very productive or very fun. And then helping them get into routine, get in a rhythm, but allowing them a day or two to sleep in or really late or whatever it is. I have lots more to say, but I'll save that.
Julie, how old were your kids? I'm trying to remember, but it seemed like for a couple of summers in a row, obviously Ellen and Caleb were old enough, but they used to they spent the whole summer practically making eventually making movies, but they were creating a whole, and they used the younger siblings in there. How do you remember
Yeah.
about?
So that was they were probably middle to high school,
Okay.
something like middle school, probably early high school.
Yeah.
Because what
Because
Ellen
I
was
don't remember it
14,
being high school age, because by then they were
they were
involved with swim
working.
team too, so, and
Yeah.
working. Yeah.
Yeah, probably middle school, something like that.
Yeah.
I would ask them at the beginning, so once they got to definitely middle school, maybe even older elementary, I'd ask them, what do you want to learn? What's a project you want to do? Like I help them think like big picture.
Hmm.
And I didn't expect them to have an answer right away, but I said, be thinking about it. What's something that you want to work on and do this summer? And that was the summer we want to make movies. So, that was back in the days of video cameras, and we had iMovie, and
It was new.
they learned how to do all that. Yeah, it was very fun. Jacob is now 13. So last summer when he was 12, I asked him, what do you want to do? And he was like, I really want to take a cooking class. I was like, oh, okay, I'd be down for that. I benefit. But to be honest, to find a really good cooking class for a 12-year-old is hard. There's a lot of like, this is how you measure flour, but he was way beyond that. He's been cooking for quite a while. And then there's all the way up to the several $100 tasting downtown Charleston where you get a bottle of wine with every course. And he was not going to be doing that one. So I was having a really hard time. And I was like, Lord, he wants to take a cooking class. Like, what do we do? Well, we happened to be at Barnes and Noble, and he sees for $25, cheapest cooking class there is, for $25, there was a sushi making kit that came with the chopsticks and the mat and a book. And then it came with access to an online 1 hour teaching on how to make sushi. And so I went to the grocery store with him, bought the ingredients that he needed, and he taught himself. He watched the class and made sushi. And that was kind of occupied a couple weeks of his summer anyway. But that was something that he wanted to do. And I love capitalizing on what they want to do, because
Yeah.
then there's buy-in and they're really interested. We use the library, guided internet search. Obviously, I'm just not going to let him on there. He heard about, so there's some YouTube channels he's allowed to watch, and one of them mentioned this guy, if you guys have heard of him, Nick DiGiovanni. He's like, he's a cook, he's a chef, Mom, can I watch him? And anytime I'm like, oh, now I have to watch it and make sure it's like kid friendly. So I watched a few episodes and I was like, yeah, this is good. You can watch him. Well, it was the best thing for me because he started making all sorts of stuff that this guy, and like teaching him how to properly cut with like things I didn't even know. Like Jacob's teaching me, do you know how to properly cut an onion, Mom? I was like, well, I've been cutting them for like 40 years, so I think so. But he's like, well, actually, the proper way. So it could be really neat once they get older to see what their passions and interests are, give them some guidance, and then let them go and see what they do. It's really exciting.
We mentioned this before. Another thing is to build sibling relationships. And so even having that conversation of, how can, what are some things that you two would like to do together? What are some ways that you can grow in your relationship so they can find things that they can enjoy doing with each other? And so that's always a great conversation too. And I'm going to also say, have a family movie list too. You know, just, I don't know about you, but I'm always searching for, or I was always searching for a good movie, and just have it on hand, you know, and access to the library and books and such,
Yeah.
you know. So just plan ahead a little bit without a lot of pressure, but I think it's going to add a lot more peace, just having some things on hand.
Yeah, definitely.
I do think a morning rhythm is expectations of that.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I also knew my triggers. My trigger was if I felt, I've grown in this a little bit, but if I felt like they were just being lazy. And so and then if you throw in a screen with laziness, it was like double whammy. I would go, we were talking, Emery, last night of what can make you upset. That can take me 0 to 10 really fast. And in my mind, I think it is just because I love productivity. And I'm thinking there's so many other better uses of time. And so just understanding like, okay, that is a trigger for me. How can I prevent that? So I need to set myself up to succeed too. So that is communicating very clearly to them, and also asking them for grace in that area too, because oftentimes I would snap and it wasn't warranted. And so helping them with me too, navigating that. But also, you know, some boundaries with screen time. What does that look like? Having understanding of a morning routine. You know, if I felt like they hadn't brushed their teeth and it's 1 o'clock and I'm just like, you know. So a couple things like that. So
Yeah.
know what triggers you as well.
Yeah. On that topic of screen time, if you know that that is something that your kids really want, have a discussion at the front of the summer about what their expectations of screen time are. And then have a discussion, especially older elementary, middle school on up, about it. And just ask what's your expectation? What do you think would be a fair amount of screen time per
Yeah.
day? And sometimes they're like, well, I think 30 minutes. And you're like, yes, that's good. Or, you know, maybe it's 1 day a week where they get 3 hours. I don't, you talk about whether you want a little bit every day, or one day that they look forward to that they can have several hours on whatever screen it is, or maybe not at all. Maybe you're making it a screen-free summer. Maybe you're detoxing, that you realize your kids are way too into screens. But have a discussion, set the expectation up day one, or what can happen, because I get that way too. I'm like, The other conversation that I've had, especially as kids have gotten older, is we talk about rest is important. I agree, just having downtime, and then asking them, what does downtime look for you? How do you recharge? And then as their parent, I can help protect that. So if we've had a really busy day, a busy weekend, a lot going on, I could say, you know, you look pretty tired. Looks like you need some downtime. Why don't you go? And we already know ahead of time what that is and what recharges them. And sometimes they'll say, you know, getting on a phone or getting on a screen. And I can ask them, does that really recharge you though? Like, think about what is the definition of recharging. And for boys, recharging is being outside. For my boys anyway, being outside, whether it's activity or even just taking a book outside. But that is a big recharge. Now it's 100 degrees, maybe not. But just reminding them of that, of what truly recharges them. Or maybe it's taking a nap.
And I remember Catherine, what really recharges her is watching a show. And I was like, we don't do that. We don't recharge by watching TV. I mean, you have several children ahead of you and none of them did that. Why all of a sudden are we going to change on number 4? And just really having a hard time with that. And like, okay, what is wrong with that?
Yeah.
You know, if she's doing all these other things and that's truly something that brings her joy, you know, like it was a growth area for me. So being okay with that. So
Yeah.
look at Anne Marie's laughing like, oh, how could you get mad?
It's so neat, and I'm sure they're picking up on it, because we talk about it, but this is just so real. As we're trying to lead our children and help them grow and develop, it just even for myself, it's just so wonderful how God is refining us in the process.
Okay, I have one quick story and then I promise I won't share anything else.
Always
I
a good
remember
story.
going to a family camp and I was devastated because our high school daughter wanted to watch this show. I think it was like CSI or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was so upset. And I just was like, felt like I didn't even know how to help with this because she did not see anything wrong with it. And I remember talking to Anne Marie, like, Anne Marie, I just can't believe this. Like, I just felt like loser, failure, like, doing it all wrong. And Anne Marie goes, oh my goodness, I watched that show. Mr. Ezzo and I watched that. You know what? Actually, I think there's a star in it that reminds us of Elizabeth, our daughter. I don't even remember. It might even have been a Keating and it starring in the show. And I remember looking at her going, what? You what? And she's like, oh my gosh, we love that. That's fine. And I was like, oh my goodness, Lord, I have so much, there's so much you want to do in me and grow me. But, I just think that sometimes we are the ones that God wants to stretch and grow. And, it's not always.
Well, and I think she's your firstborn, and it's sometimes it's so hard. Those firstborns are paving the way. And we're like, don't you want to watch VeggieTales?
Oh,
Like, really?
With
CSI?
your little ones.
And we think they can't possibly be ready for something like that.
I remember. Oh, yes. So I share that, just so.
Yeah.
Anne Marie's probably no, I'm kidding. That was super helpful. But
Well, it's funny. I think we were introduced, our church, they haven't done it recently. Well, sometimes they'll do at the movies during the summer, but I think the first time we were introduced to CSI was actually through a message at church. And it's like, what is that? And we said, oh, this is not so
That
bad.
looks good.
Oh, wow.
I mean, some of these programs, obviously, as time progresses, you have to start becoming more discerning. But usually when they start out,
Of course.
yeah, but still.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes they ask, like Jacob asking about that YouTube chef. That meant I
Yeah,
had
you
to
got
watch it.
yeah.
And I was like, I don't feel like watching it. Ugh.
Means more work.
Yeah, it means more work. It paid off on the back end, though. I didn't have to make dinner. So I got my time back.
He's a great little chef.
Be ready when they say, I'm bored. So I love the proactive approach, have some ideas, talk through things that they can do, but then don't be their entertainer for the summer. You can help guide them. You can give them ideas, have discussions. It's not that you're throwing them to the wind, entertain yourself, but just make sure they're not dependent on you for entertainment all summer. Now, of course, the toddlers, yes, you are 100% guiding their day. You're not entertaining them either necessarily. They should still be doing room time and blanket time and all this stuff where they can have some time on their own for creative play. But be ready. And if you have a child that's continually, I'm bored, and you've given them ideas of things they can do. Was it Anne Marie that you said, well, you have a problem. What are you going to do about that? Was it you who told me that Anne Marie years ago? How are you going to solve that problem? And putting it back on them. I know other people, if it gets to be a problem, and this is more kind of consequence-ish, so I don't want to start there. I like the proactive, life-giving encouragement. But if you just have a child that is just, I'm bored, then we would sometimes go to a chore list. And so anytime they'd say, I'm bored, I'd say, go pick from the chore list. I got stuff for you to do. And that nipped that in the bud real quick. They learned to come up with on their own with something to do.
I love, so I've heard sibling relationships, looking at their own unique gifts, like really looking at each child and what are their unique gifts, their own interests, some life skills. I heard cooking, what are some things that we can do with life skills and generosity? What are some things that you can do maybe to serve others, neighbors? It's always fun to sell something or earn some money in the summer. And then, character training. I also think it's a great time to help them to discover who they are, their identity. And so we see things in them, character qualities, but helping them to see it in themselves too. And obviously pointing them to the Lord. What an opportunity to really just live your Christian walk out loud right before them. So when you're praying through something, let them see that. When you're reading your Bible, share what you're learning. You just want that to be not just, a set devotion time, but a life of of living for Christ, and what does that look like? And so what an opportunity they're going to be around you a little bit more, not to over spiritualize everything, but to point them towards a God that loves them so much. So do you guys have any questions or comments or feedback?
Ideas, things you've
Yeah.
done to share. Y'all are so creative. So
I wanted to
I have
share
a,
something.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jessica. I'll go next.
Okay. Something I could relate to with praying and then pointing out later the way God answered the prayer, or, connecting the dots for them. So the last 2 summers, I did theme days, and I felt like it was a little too restrictive. It was, for me, I don't want to do it again. I feel like my kids are getting older and they don't need it. But we would have one day be like a nature day. And we also are kind of on a tight-ish budget too. So I can relate to that and feeling like, oh man, like, making sure I'm not comparing and things. But there's a park that's not too far from our house. It costs $5 to get in. And it's like kind of like protected land. So they have a lot of cool wildlife there. So we were on the way there for our nature day, and I was feeling kind of like bummed because there was rain in the forecast and I didn't want to be wet on the walk, but it's like, this is what we're doing. They're excited. So here we go. And so I was like, okay, guys, what are we, believing God for today on our nature day and whatever. And I let them pray because I just honestly wasn't in the best mood. And so one of my daughters prayed that they would see something really amazing. So, and all the kids were excited about that. And like, yeah, they agreed, like, okay, God, you're going to let us see something amazing. So we're walking and, again, I'm not in the best mood. And all of a sudden we see this massive owl. And it's the middle of the day, a huge owl, and it wasn't far. And we watched it like swoop down and get something. It was unbelievable. And like the joy on there, like, God answered our prayer. Like they were,
Oh,
Jessica, that's
the best.
it was like, it encouraged me so much too. Cause I'm like, thank you, Lord. Cause it just was the best experience. And then we were able to like remember it later on, like a day where it was like, what are we going to do? I'm like, okay, well, let's talk to God about it. And remember when he gave us the owl, and, it just was positive. So
I love that.
yeah, I don't know that I would have remembered had you not said that, because it's been a while and it's a different season, right? But like, you're so right. Like we can do that. We can expect that he's gonna provide for them, So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I have to share something because I'm surrounded by friends that are amazing journalers, Anne Marie and Julie. And I remember wanting my kids to be journalers because I was not. That was the honest truth. And so I really encouraged journaling, and they did actually. And now I'm a journaler. But all that to say, you want to know the extent of what I could do is I got like an art notebook, that's spiral bound, that has blank pages and it's black. And I would put it on our like ottoman and throughout the summer. And then whoever wanted to journal in it, like about God stories or things that we did. And like, I have the coolest pictures in it. Like, like that, I could see one of my kids coming home and wanting to draw an owl and, about the story. And so it reminded me of that. And it was just a compilation of things, and I didn't have to do a thing. And it was things that they could remember. And I've pulled it out, and it's so funny. I mean, some of the stories, from a kid's heart are hilarious at different ages. But that was honestly, so just go with what you're strong with too. Like, and the whole thing of not comparing, and just how the Lord, we have some good stories like that. So there you go. So helping our kids to remember.
Well, I just love that. And I keep thinking, Jessica, you said you forgot. It's been a while and it just came back. Even bringing it up again with the kids. And then that could be like
Yes.
the Rabago family, like, remember the owl. Like, it can be a slogan. You could like have t-shirts made with owls. I'm going crazy. But you know what I mean? Like, it could be something that's your family identity.
And then there's me. I can't even imagine getting matching shirts.
I was totally kidding about
No,
that.
you're not. She would do it and they would be amazing.
You stay in your lane, don't get in
I
my
know,
lane.
and that's the beauty is we were so different, and just
But
really
it could
staying in your
be,
lane.
but
Yeah.
it's reminding, the Ezzos did a whole teaching on memorials and remembering what God
Yes.
has done. And we forget
Yeah.
what God has done. I forget what God has done, the
Yeah.
amazing things he has done. And so just those little reminders, remember the owl, remember the Alamo, remember the owl. I think that's beautiful. I had to laugh, Jessica, where you talk about you had theme days. I tried
Yes.
that one summer too, and it was so restrictive. I totally dropped it. And it's so funny because as I was preparing for this, I was like, well, maybe I'll mention it. Maybe someone will like it. And I actually went into chat and I said, making a schedule for the summer with the kids, or I don't know, something like that. Make a theme day every day, such as Water Wednesday. And chat came up with all these fun ideas. So I will throw it out there, but just be careful because if you present it to their kids and it's Wednesday and you don't feel like running through the sprinkler or going to the pool, they're going to remind you it's Water Wednesday. But you could make it a lot more broad too. You could, like one of the examples was Teach It Tuesday. And so you either go to a new place or you try a new skill. I mean, that leaves it really broad.
Or teach it, and you choose whatever day. That would be my style.
Yeah. Or Thoughtful Thursday or Thankful Thursday. And on Thursday, you say things you're thankful for, or you're thoughtful and you do things for neighbors. Food Friday, you cook or bake together. Make It Monday, you do crafts.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So, like I said, and it's something that you can come up with, like if you wake up in that morning and you decide, I feel like cooking with the kids, it's Food Friday. And then they're like, yay, it's Food Friday. But they didn't know about that last night that was even going to happen. Or you wake up Wednesday morning and you're like, today would be a good day to go to the splash pad. It's Water Wednesday. And they think you've had it planned all along and you look like a
You're so
hero.
fun.
It was so funny the summer that I tried that. I think our oldest was probably like fifth grade. She loved it. We wrote it all out. And yeah, it didn't really work. Water Wednesday. We don't feel like going to the pool. Okay, we're not.
So last summer, my husband decided to make Josiah a lemonade stand. But his desire was for Josiah to learn how to serve first. And so last summer, I think they did it like once or twice, but Josiah wasn't like, they didn't charge it like for the lemonade. So it was like Josiah, like we would make the lemonade, but then we would like pass it out to people. And it was really fun because a lot of people were like, kind of like surprised. But Josiah just had like, he called everyone his customers, and he was really excited to have like all of his customers come up to his table. And then like sometimes, they would like give him a tip or something just as like a fun little thing, but he loved it. And I think it like kind of sparked, this desire to serve people in his heart. He loves serving, he loves helping, but it just was a really cool way
Oh,
of
I
like
love
getting
that.
him to be like, maybe in the future with like even the summer, like maybe they'll do a lemonade stand and he might charge like 50 cents for a drink or something. But for his first summer to be like, we're going to have this be others focused instead of like, what can Josiah get out of it? And he had so much fun. Like he really did enjoy that. So that was just like a fun idea that I wanted to share. We
I
had a
love
blast with.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. Serving for free.
Yeah, yeah. Our family, we are in the process of praying and allowing the Lord to orchestrate the timing of it. But my husband's learning how to be a roaster to roast coffee. And so eventually when we want to have our own roastery and then do a coffee shop with some of our really close friends. And so we're just constantly dreaming up coffee shop ideas, and Josiah just loves it. Like he just jumps in on like, what if we do this? Can we do this for the kids? And so it's just like a really cool, like bringing him into it and letting him dream about it. It's like, like we were even the other day talking about, okay, when we do start a coffee shop, what are roles that we each want to have? And Josiah was like, I want a role. What can I do? And so like bringing him kind of into and getting him again excited to serve, because if he's gonna, if that's gonna be a part of his life, like getting him to serve people when they come in and loving on them. And so yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
That's so wonderful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so great.
I had a thought on some of the themed days. So last summer, James was born on June 4th. So our summer was just, little tiny babies. I'm not sleeping well, whatever, but we still have three older kids. So I printed off, there's a lot of content creators online. So I think I found like a craft like camp. It was like 6 weeks of theme days each week and activities and stuff. And I gave it to the two older girls. And I said, you are now camp counselors, and it's your job to put this together for your younger sister.
Mm.
And they had the best time. They like talked about, they made a whole campsite and how to navigate. They did maps and oobleck, and I was not involved. Very little.
Perfect.
But yeah, it was so
So
good.
I
good.
love that. That
So
is
good.
so great.
Yeah, and they were what, 7 and 5 when they did
Yeah,
that?
yeah, they were
Yeah,
little. Yeah, yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
They needed some direction. I would like get them
Oh,
started, but then they would set it all up, and Lizzie loved it. The 2-year-old at the time.
yes. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. That is so neat.
Hmm.
Love it. Oh, you guys have some good ideas.
You guys
Oh,
feel excited now moving into summer? I do. I don't
You
need-
want to borrow a kid?
Kathy, did you have anything you want to say?
well, I was just going to share my one thing that has been helpful for me, but it's certainly not fun, which is just how I roll. But I have a binder, a summer binder that I keep. So, and then on the front, it has kind of like it's in a sheet protector, and so we just have like a checklist, and so it gives some flexibility, but also more structured, and it will just say an hour of their goal time, so the kids will make their goals or whatnot. One last year my son wanted to practice typing, get better at typing, so he would have his hour of goal time or an hour of reading or something where it was quiet, and they had so it would just had that in each of their binders at the front so they could check it off. And then when they kind of got through that, they had some other free time or we'd have family time or whatever. It just gave them some kind of guidance. And that way in their binder, they had their like goal list, or if we were going to do some character goals throughout the summer, I'd have all the supplies in there because we travel so much. We just take the binder with. So it kind of kept us on those days where we needed some structure. We just had to look at the binder, but also gave all some freedom so it didn't have to be, you didn't have to stick to it too.
Hmm. And I think that's a good reminder. Was it Iris who talked about also some maybe bigger cleaning projects? I would, take the summer and let them know, hey, this week we're cleaning out your closet. And, it wasn't an all week thing, but maybe a little bit each day, or one day we tackle it all morning and get it done. So I kind of felt like there was some stuff that I don't have time for during the school year we could tackle. And so I would set that expectation up front. And as they get older, you can ask them too, because sometimes the mess in their room does not bother them. Sometimes they're like, yeah, it's been driving me crazy that I can't step 2 feet into my closet. I'm like, yeah, let's do something about that. My desk, if you could see the corner, there's a stack that I think's been there for like 5 years. I could probably just throw the whole thing away. But I'm like, this summer I'm tackling that stack.
Yes, so good. And there's joy in the mundane.
Mhm.
That's
And that's important for them to learn. I
that's a
mean, it's
life
a life
lesson.
skill.
I'm
It
saying.
really is. It really is a life
There's
skill.
joy in the mundane. I was just thinking about, I think our culture, even feeds that. What are you doing this summer? What are you
Yeah,
looking forward to? And I was thinking, like, you know what? Enjoying each other.
right.
Yeah.
Could that just be our answer and that be enough?
Yeah.
We'll see what
We
God
do
has for us.
a
I,
summer bucket list too. So
Yeah.
at the beginning of summer, we'll have them create a bucket list. So we'll scatter in the fun it's had in our family. And then at the end, we also like to take like a reflection moment. So before we get back
Oh,
into
I like
all
that.
regular fall rhythms, we'll pull out the bucket list. And, sometimes we really don't make a ton of progress on it. And sometimes we're like, oh, remember when we did that? And so it does kind of bring back those things. Oh, I totally forgot about what happened at the start of summer. That was fun too. So we like to reflect back over it as well.
Yeah, I love
Maybe a
that.
summer photo book. Then they'll really remember.
Yeah. 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 As your kids get older and,
They can do it.
they can do things. If you're like, oh, I've been wanting to put all those pictures from vacation last summer into a, Snapfish book, or I don't know, whatever you do. Spend an hour, teach your kids to do it, let them do it. It won't be the way you do it, no, but that's okay. And you know what? Years from now, you'll actually enjoy the way they put it together. Like it, I don't know about, at me, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way. But now I look back and it's like, it's okay.
It's
They
so
were
cool.
they were 12
Yes.
when they did it. It's
And
adorable.
summer highlights or just ways to remember the summer, so there is even pictures of the mundane,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
anyway.
All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour. I want to
Yeah.
honor your guys' time. We'll stick around for a little bit more. Happy to chat some more. But I'll go ahead and close us in prayer. So, Father God, I thank you so much for this time that we've had. I thank you for all these mamas and how purposeful they want to be with their summer. And Lord, I pray that you are Lord of our summer. You're Lord of every day, every square inch of our lives, and you desire to fulfill the desires of our heart, which you know better than we do. So, Father God, I pray for immeasurably more than all we're asking or imagining this summer with our children, with our entire family, that you would guide us, that you would direct us, that you would show us your wonders, that we would learn new things about you, new things about ourselves, and about each other. Teach us to love well. In Jesus' name, amen.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to see more, and check out the growingfamilies.life website to find more resources and to get connected.